Technology has been a game changer as far as the opportunities that our kids have.
A device can be an expensive worksheet if you use it a certain way, but it also can help transform teaching and learning if it's used the right way.
School has looked the same for a long, long time. Now we know that that can be different.
And when you walk into any classroom in this school, you wonder who is the leader because the kids are leading their own instruction. They're given the tools to do so.
The National Educational Technology Plan is the central framework for how technology tools and digital learning resources can be used by educators throughout the nation's education systems to really reimagine and transform learning for teachers, kids, families, everybody within the system. And so what it does is it pulls together policy recommendations, research, expert recommendation, and examples from the field about those things in practice. So there was content around learning, how kids learn differently using these tools, resources, opportunities. Talks about teaching, of course, and how the teaching profession is different now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Content around leadership and how district, school, state leadership really plays a role in setting the agenda, building consensus. Talks about assessment as well, and really with a strong focus on data and how technology enables educators to have access to more and more data faster and faster in real time, and what to do about that. Talks about infrastructure, which is big, plays big into this in terms of both devices, software, hardware, and broadband access, which is wildly important now that we're trying to see any place, anytime connected learning occur in our schools.
So I think technology has changed student learning by putting the ability to create learning into the hands of students. So they are now really empowered to take an idea and push it further, maybe even beyond what the teacher thought about when he or she planned the lesson. And I've seen teachers really integrate traditional technologies and new technologies in creative ways.
I would like to be able to say that the research around education technology is glowing, that everything we're doing with technology is showing these amazing positive results when it comes to student learning. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. It's a bit murky. What we've had to do is dig a little bit deeper. What we found is that those gains are often coming not necessarily from a ubiquitous use of technology, but rather a very purposeful and careful use of technology. And getting even deeper into it, we're seeing that the instructional practices of the teacher make the largest difference.
The Ed Tech plan says that students really need to know how to use technology to solve real-life problems. We're beginning to see that shift where we're actually using technology as a tool to transform learning, more to help students become creative thinkers, critical problem solvers, collaborators, and working differently with technology rather than just using technology to do what we've always done.
Kids are doing so much more advanced things now than I ever imagined could even be possible as a high school student. Our kids think, they interact with each other, they build team skills, they create products out of information they find, and all of that really goes back to happening because they have an easy access or avenue to do that, and technology plays a large role in that.
So today in my classroom, you would have seen students who are starting a personalized writing unit. What I do is I go on to Google Sites, and it allows me to create content that can be differentiated for everybody in my classroom. It doesn't matter what level you're at. So if you're at a basic level, you can still work independently with me circulating. And then as I'm circulating, I'm noticing these kids are lacking in this area or these kids are really strong in this area. So I have a couple opportunities to either partner kids who are strong with kids who need some support, or I can pull 3 or 4 kids into a group, focus on that skill. The next day I can pull a different small group and focus on a new skill. So it just allows me to personalize and differentiate much more readily.
One area that I think has been extremely beneficial when it comes to digital technologies in school has been for assistive technologies. So technology can help all students, but in particular our students with particular needs.
Braden has the diagnosis of cerebral palsy. Today he was in a science class. They had a presentation to do on a national park. Braden was in a small group with his Chromebook, and so using Read and Write Google, he's able to talk his answers to the computer today for the presentation and hand that in and interact with a class more and be more involved. I think for so long for him in school, people have just assumed that the physical work that he's doing is his ability. You know, and now he can use these tools and show all this stuff and have independence. I think that's the biggest thing.
I think our staff is making the transition from being something where students are receiving knowledge and the teacher is a font of wisdom. The teacher can really become really an aid in helping that student reach a potential.
Pretty much every single student in our school district has their own computer. That's changed dramatically. Every single student, whether they're special needs, not special needs, every student has a Chromebook.
You know, I think more than anything else, technology has just become ubiquitous, right? It's kind of like the air we breathe in our schools. And we're not about technology here. I think that's the interesting thing about this is not even, you know, I would not call our one-to-one initiative a technology initiative. It's a learning initiative. You know, what we want to do is create the very best learning experiences for kids that we possibly can, period.
At Council Bluffs, everyone's on board to make sure that, you know, everyone has the tools that they need in order to learn. It levels the playing field, and, you know, kids are able to do things now that, you know, they were never able to do before.
For an initiative like this to be successful, you have to understand this idea that things are possible now that weren't possible before. You know, when I'm thinking through how are kids going to demonstrate their understanding of a concept, their understanding of some content, that there are lots and lots of ways that I can have kids show that now. It doesn't have to be in a written essay, right? I can have kids create using any of the technologies that they have at their disposal. They can create videos and they can create audio and they can use images and annotate those images. They can also write. They can write all kinds of different kinds of text.
We want students to be able to take charge of their learning, to be able to know how to learn and how to demonstrate competencies through learning.
In our case, we start with why. We have created some very clearly defined why statements around why we do all of this, why we're making the investment of time and energy and significant money into this technology-rich environment.
I can try to use different words when I'm leaving. Let's watch.
In terms of Milo, he has a very specific purpose, and that purpose is to assist special education students on the autism spectrum with appropriate communication and recognizing nonverbal skills. For some students, having a relationship with that device is easier than having a relationship with a human being.
Great job.
And for this very special group of students, they're learning social skills that they will use with other human beings from a device from this robot. I find it to be amazing.
Mix it up, you know.
Students are learning these social clues and cues and appropriate responses from the technology, from the robot, and applying them in their daily life with people.
For most students that work with Milo, it's so intuitive for them. When Milo asks for their attention, eyes on Milo, students engage. And then when they engage, their attention is there. The cadence of the speech is slower, allowing more time to process. That keeps anxiety lower. So there's just more retention. There's a greater processing through it. It's just, again, another opportunity for a student to be very individually engaged and realize those greatest potentials.
Gotta go. Bye.
To see the true application with a student who needs to develop particular kinds of skills, to watch it, you know, happen was amazing for me. It's why you do the work.
And McLean could have someone on her other side.
So education technology has always been around since since the beginning of schooling in the U.S. So we've had paper, pencils, slates, but what has really changed over the last 2 decades has been that we've moved from kind of a whole group instruction with technology, where technology was really supplementing what was already happening in the classroom, and now what we're seeing are classrooms where there's this idea of personalizing and individualizing instruction through technology. We also don't necessarily see the students doing the same things on their devices anymore. Students could be using the same piece of software but doing very different things with it based on their learning interests, based on their differentiated learning levels.
So we don't have to teach to the whole and wait for everybody to get to a certain place before we move to the next place in the continuum of learning. And this enables us to meet kids' needs in ways that are where they're at. So when they're ready to move, they're able to move.
Even though the other 3 kindergarten teachers are considerably younger than I am actually the one who uses technology the most and is always looking for new ways to use technology in the classroom. And so they love it when I share ideas of things. Oh, I found this, we can do this together in the class. I don't start with technology, and I don't start that technology is what I want to use, so what am I going to teach? What I do is figure out what is it I want to teach, and is there a way that technology can make that a better experience?
So we have our one main classroom, which is called our 21st century classroom. When you first walk in, you're going to notice whiteboard walls. We call those the idea walls that you can actually write on just like a whiteboard. Our tables are movable for different configurations, but they also are whiteboard material on the tables. The other thing in the classroom we found is that we're able to differentiate instruction, meaning that maybe a group that needs more time on a concept, they work at one table, but there may be another group that needs to accelerate, and so the teacher has the ability to display different things depending on what the students need.
So each one is a math problem.
A lot of kids process by talking, listening to other people think and how they think about problems, and their modeling their thinking is a powerful way to ignite learning in kids. And so anytime we can put them in a collaborative group where they're hearing other people process in a structured way, my job then is how do I set up tasks and conversations so that my kids can build the blocks for each other to get there. Having spaces like that have pushed me to be better at moving away from the stage, moving away from being the expert in the room, partnering up more with kids in that way.
What we have found is if you wait to give teachers directions, it slows the whole process down. So making sure that the teachers know that they have permission to try things that they know will meet the needs of their learners in the classroom, I think is one of the things that's a great asset here. I have found that if you plant the initiative or plant the goals, then the teachers find ways to accomplish that. They are the best teachers of each other for things that work well for students. You know, it used to be that as a teacher you'd walk into the classroom and you had a textbook that you taught from, and you taught the lesson and you tested the kids at the end, and the learning was very stagnant. What we do now is we have the Common Core for a basis for what needs to be taught. But the teachers do a lot of pre-assessing. The teachers use a lot of technology to, number one, engage the kids, number two, get feedback constantly from the kids on their learning, and then number three, instead of taking a test at the end of the unit, let's create a project that shows me what you know.
Does that make sense? Oh.
It's a rather intimidating process, I think, for people to learn along with students. So I think we're pretty candid. I'm learning with you. Oh, I made an error, so don't do that. But we usually try and fuse it into our lessons.
Modeling all the way. Model.
Yeah, to make it seem very natural for us. So this is how you use it. This is the mistake that you can make with it. And then the we do, we all go and do it together. And then, of course, the you do, you go and do it on your own.
And I think that's important that they see us make those mistakes, because sometimes with tech, it can seem not super user-friendly with, certain systems. And so it's like, well, we just saw Miss Berry mess up, and she figured it out eventually. And so that struggle is good sometimes. So being able to push beyond the struggle with using those tools is important.
So the National Education Technology Plan has a new focus for teachers, which is really wanting and recognizing that for teachers to use technology effectively, they need a lot of professional development. Many of our teachers did not grow up using technologies. They did not grow up seeing teachers using technologies effectively. Some of them were not even trained when they went through their teacher preparation programs because it was long enough ago that they didn't have those opportunities.
We constantly talk about differentiated learning and how you can't teach to the whole anymore. It's just, it's not fair to students. You have to meet students where they are. And for teachers, that becomes a very difficult job because now I'm not teaching to one entire group. I have 25 individuals who need different kinds of things each and every day. And so technology, especially one-to-one technology, can differentiate that learning for the student.
Leadership is key. I can't emphasize how important leadership is. If you see a school that ended up disbanding a one-to-one program, it's often because they didn't have strong leadership in place. So if nothing else, leadership has to be the driving force when it comes to implementing a technology program in your school. Leadership needs to create a vision, and that's where things need to begin. Rather than with a tool, it needs to begin with a vision from the leaders in the school.
Use the number 9 here. What does the 9 stand for?
Really started at the school board level and their support and saying that the status quo isn't good enough for our kids, that we want to provide every opportunity we can for them to learn and grow. I've heard it said before that your zip code shouldn't determine what you're able to learn. There's big city opportunities here in rural Iowa. Technology helps make that happen. Rural poverty in Iowa is a real thing. Some of these pieces of technology students may not have accessibility to through their own home.
6 years ago, the administration said we're going to hit technology hard, and that was scary.
The teacher's ability to be very flexible and to learn on their feet as they go, I think that's invaluable to the culture that we've grown here. It's really not a top-down driven system. Anything that's mandated kind of has that negative twist on it. The teachers know that they're free to try things. They're empowered to do what they know is best for their learners.
Fabulous. Seth, do you agree with him?
Our administration is very supportive. They come in, they want to see what we're doing, but they give us wings and they let us fly. If we have suggestions, they always want to hear them, and they will find a way to make it happen.
I think what the teachers have felt is they have permission to fail forward. Anything that they want to try in the classroom, you know, a lot of times they'll run it by me, but not always. They do what they know is good teaching practice.
It can't be top down. You have to invite the educators into a conversation. They have to be a part of this decision making.
Try to, I guess, model everything we want from our teachers needs to come from us as an admin team. Really, that's not my personality to be on social media, and that's something that I got to step out of my comfort zone with. We got a school Twitter account. If I'm asking our staff to reach out and connect with other people on Twitter, become part of the Iowa Ed chats, that I'll put myself out there and become part of that conversation, which has helped grow some nice professional connections. And those connections were harder before technology. It wouldn't work if we just said do this, do this, do this, and didn't do it, because they need to see us failing forward also with it.
We need to rethink how teachers approach their jobs. We have to almost give them opportunity to fail and to be risk takers. You know, they need to be able to try new things. If it doesn't work, okay, what did I learn? And as a result, how can I do it differently the next time, with or without technology, that will make it a better situation for our students?
Part of preparing educators to take advantage of everything great that technology provides is preparing them to do it and giving them the time to try things out, creating an environment where they can take risks, where it's safe to fail. It's okay to experiment, because that'll help teachers feel better about teaching with tools and methods and processes that maybe they haven't been teaching that way for their entire career. It's brand new. Well, they feel safe. They can take that risk.
I think technology provides a real opportunity to assess students in more efficient ways and to provide real-time data back to students and teachers. We know that good assessment is integral to good instruction, and it should be just part of how teaching and learning happens. And so when teachers can use technology to quickly assess and check student progress, they can get right back into instruction. And so it's a seamless transition between teaching, students demonstrating, practicing, and then assessing, and then right back into the cycle.
For many years, technology was really used in a summative assessment way, kind of almost a standardized test online, a paper pencil test online, and it wasn't that much different. But what we've seen over the last decade has been a movement into unique ways to do formative assessment. And technology can play an integral role in teachers being able to get those in-the-moment checkpoints during the process of learning, which is what formative assessment is. So there's a lot of software now that allows students to be working on maybe a mathematics problem, and the teacher can actually log in at the same time synchronously and see what they're doing and give them feedback in the moment about what they're doing.
The biggest thing has been feedback. Technology has made that so much easier for me, but for the kids, they can be so much more responsive. You know, I can give feedback, they get an email or a comment right away, and they're eager to check, and then they're eager to fix. And so that process for feedback especially, I feel, has been really streamlined. So you can see who's really getting it, and you can see who's maybe struggling with how to get started. And it allows you to make comments as they're working. I think it makes flexible grouping so much easier because we don't have to wait. You know, normally they do an assignment, it's due Friday, and then we're moving on. Here, it's like, do we do it Monday? Tuesday, I can check, and I know what these kids need. I can sort them, I can group them way easier. Just makes that process so much more simple, and then we're able to reach kids way faster.
The impact on technology on student learning is difficult to measure. It's challenging to measure. We are using some software across the entire state of Iowa.
One of the things that Iowa actually, a product that Iowa brought in, teachers fill out a survey, and so, you know, it is self-rating to say how technology is being used. Students fill out a survey to talk about how technology is being used, and that compiles information across those different surveys to show how the technology is being used, you know, about what access do teachers have to technology, or do students have technology at home, as well as what's being done with that technology, and what skills that teaching staff might have to use that technology.
And so one of the things that we've done is to implement something called Bright Bites. And Bright Bites is just a data source that we take a survey with parents, students, and teachers, grades 3 through 12, and try to get areas that we're doing well with.
With Bright Bites, we're able to see how kids are using technology and if it's making an impact on the learning that they have.
One of the things that we've done to take the Bright Bites data even further is to create a 4C team, a leadership team with technology. The 4Cs stand for communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. We look at that data and then we try to help teachers within the 4C areas get that to their students. And then every year we measure our data, did we improve in those areas?
With the other teachers. We, as a committee, had a set time where all of the teachers got together to do the Bright Bites survey. We get the results back and we look through and we kind of just look at what are some areas that are a high need for teachers, that they're really seeming not to use technology or not understand how to do it.
And this is one of the few ways that we've been able to say, besides just we know it's making a difference, come watch our classrooms, we have some data that we can show the school board, we can show our community, and we're very, very proud of the direction we're going with that.
Once we identify the need is there, we can then create measures that help us project the kinds of things that we need to do in order to enable kids and teachers to be working around those 4 Cs, and we're starting now to actually see improvement in those areas. So that's very exciting.
The National Education Technology Plan places a large emphasis on a variety of things when it comes to infrastructure. It's not just having high-speed broadband internet access. It's having high-speed access for the entire community.
So while they have this technology at school, once they leave school, if they don't have a way of getting on the internet at home, it doesn't help. Now, there are answers out there like the library and that kind of a thing, but the library is not always open, or the student might be doing homework late at night. So there are districts that are doing some creative things.
This community is a very high-tech community and has embraced the idea of being a technology leader in the school district. I hear people talking about our schools and our technology focus, in the community and the pride factor. We've also recently begun an initiative. We're a little over a year into a community-wide Wi-Fi project to allow our community to have lots and lots of free public Wi-Fi to benefit students, but also to benefit anybody in the community who needs Wi-Fi. We've started in neighborhoods of poverty first on purpose, and we're moving across the city installing as much free public Wi-Fi as possible. And it's a cooperative team effort between the school district and the city of Council Bluffs and lots of other organizations who've helped. So it's really a community that's embraced the idea of being a tech leader, because the people here are proud of what we've done in schools and in the city and in the community in general.
In addition to kind of this high-speed connectivity, we also want to make sure that we have all of the devices in place and that we can sustain them, because there's a lot of devices that are coming into the schools. It's not just what the schools are buying or purchasing, it's also students are bringing in their own devices. Teachers have their own devices. So you want to make sure that the infrastructure physically can just support that. Another piece of it is just kind of creative long-term budgeting and making sure that you can afford to sustain the vision that you have. A large piece is digital citizenship, making sure that students understand digital etiquette, making sure that devices that are used in the schools are safe and secure, and students understand what that is, that you're in line with federal laws. So infrastructure stretches out to mean a lot of different pieces coming together to make these devices successful in the classrooms.
We're a one-to-one school district, so all kids here in our district, K-12, are issued a one-to-one device. iPads at the K-5, 6th through 12th grade have the MacBook Airs. That provides a piece of equity that all students are on a level playing field.
I think one of the big things that we did this year is we did a technology refresh, so we all got new devices. It had been 3 years since the other devices were in place, and it was time to upgrade. I think that is a big piece in making sure that we're planning financially for that to occur. And then, the training piece for teachers, because even though the device is the same device, there are more capabilities with the newer versions, and making sure that the teachers are aware of those and always giving them time to explore. It's hard. Technology is expensive, and making sure that we had the funds in place to support that was one of the key pieces that we had to have in place before we proceeded. Every school district struggles with how do I fund it and where's that money going to come from and what else do I have to cut to make this happen. I think one of the main things that we've done here at Howard Wynn is we are not big on textbook adoption. We do not go out and purchase a lot of curriculum. There's so much stuff on the internet that's free or at very little charge that the teachers have really gone out and pursued those things that meet Iowa core and that they can adapt to use as teaching resources in their classroom. So that's a lot of funds that we have saved just by utilizing the devices that we have.
We got an appropriate use policy that we need to communicate, have people check off on, hold them accountable to that's a piece of it. We have very few things blocked here at the school. When we try to, we try to take those approaches at an individual basis with different students that way. Oftentimes I wonder, should we put the clamps on things a little more? But the reality is when they leave here for college or career, that things are wide open, and some kids need a little more coaching in that than others, but that's what we're here for too, is to teach those soft skills to help them be employable and be productive after they leave here. It really is a system, and there's a lot of moving pieces to it, and there's a lot of things that need to be going right to make it all work.
Which one has been? How do you know that, Connor? Because I was around.
Technology doesn't replace great teaching. Technology supports great teachers, helps with engagement of students.
There's not a magic app. There's not a magic machine. There's not one thing that's going to be a cure-all.
Because we're preparing kids for jobs that aren't invented yet.
Our kids across America in public schools are doing things that we never dreamed could happen 15 or 20 years ago.
But what is very helpful, and the research has shown this, is the instructional moves the teacher's making.
they have an independence that they never had before.
To be able to see that integration of just excellent teaching, of those teacher and student interactions, plus the layering in of technology and then students being able to create has been really exciting.
You know, I would not call our one-to-one initiative a technology initiative. It's a learning initiative. It's about the learning experiences that we can create for all the kids in our district.